Born in Roma fragrances.
Just try believing all this power in your frequency. All these doubts may have it shaking, but what's learned was never needless. Just breathe it. Just breathe it. Just breathe it.
Born in Roma fragrances. Valentino.
Unwrapping a gift from Brooks Brothers reveals quality they'll treasure for years to come. Brooks Brothers, unwrapping tradition since 1818.
Okay, so first impression time. I'm loving this. We are going to definitely be continuing this tomorrow. Massive thanks to each and every one of you who showed up here live today. I appreciate you all so much. Part 2 of this is going to be tomorrow, because this is originally going to be my Sunday game, but I was not feeling Spyro today, so I've decided to do the Sunday game today. This is going to be our Sunday game. This is going to be continuing tomorrow. Monday we will be continuing with Broken Age. Tuesday we will be continuing with Sunset Overdrive. I'm going to put up a poll for Wednesday. Thursday I haven't decided yet. Friday we will continue with Alice. Saturday we will continue with Spyro. Massive thanks to all of you who came out today and made today an awesome stream. I appreciate you all so much. Please stick around until the end of the raid. It means so much to me and the person I'm raiding out to. But until next time, I have been Blackbird. This has been Lost in Random. I hope you all have a beautiful day. Bye-bye. Oh, if you are watching this on YouTube later, please feel free to like, share, follow, subscribe, do all those nice things. But until next time, hope you all have a great day. Bye! Alright. Have a great day. Bye!
Hello, everybody. Yeah, thank you for the raid, Bird. Hello. So, what we're doing here currently is we're working on a new deck using the new Fate mechanic. So my name's Jesse. I run one of the pro teams for this game for Force of Will here. I am also a author for this book here, Deciphering Broken Vows. Currently, I have 23 chapters published. The most recent one just came out on Friday. This book has been live for about 10 months, 10 weeks. A new chapter goes live every week, and I started with an initial publication of 15 chapters, and I have it go up every single week with no exceptions. So the new mechanic that just got introduced for this game is Fate, which goes off on cards like this, the Dead Eye of Astaroth. And Fate exactly reads that at the beginning of the game, if you control a ruler with that name, you get to put it into the game as a sub-ruler here. I was lucky enough to get my hands on an error copy of this card that I'll be getting in the mail shortly. And I love errors and misprints as a heavy collector, so I decided to go ahead and build a deck for this that showcases this really old ruler here with Gil Omahat. As Fate here says, anything with the name Almahat, I can just put this into the field as a sub-ruler. So it's going to go ahead and start working on a deck that showcases this. If anyone has any questions or comments they wish to add, they can go ahead and do so. The Fate mechanic was added to these 5 cards here for 5 different rulers, and of course I'll be taking a look at more of them as time goes on. Just want to start here with this one. So Gil himself features the mana mechanic, where he starts with a number of counters on him that then you can use his ability to remove to produce will, which is the main resource of this game. Anyone familiar with Magic? It's very similar to mana that you tap and gain from lands or artifacts. sometimes through creatures. This way he just has them on him to use. And the Deadeye here showcase the ability to, at the end of turn, you 4C, so you in magic terms you would scry. So I get to look at the top card of my deck and decide if I want to keep it on the top or put it on the bottom, and then I get a counter. So every turn I will just be gaining more of these mana counters to then use, as Gil then allows me to use those to produce one of any color, or to spend for any card with the Ancient Magic race. One of those here is Viola's Machinations, the first card I really want to showcase for the deck that I want to plan around. So, being a 1 darkness, your opponent discards a card, then I get a counter back on my J Ruler, since he will have mana. So this card will essentially be that I remove 1 counter to produce a darkness, then I play the Machinations, which then will make my opponent discard a card, then I get back the counter. The Deadeye of Astaroth here gives all light and darkness ancient magics in my hand or graveyard, quick cast and remnant. Remnant means that I'm allowed to play it from the grave. So then I can immediately use that counter it just gave me to produce another darkness to play it again. So I get to use 1 card 3 times. Twice. Yeah, I get to use the same card twice, but using 3 mana counters that all just refund themselves. To then let my opponent discard 2 cards, just to go up in card value. Yep. This combo will be fun to play, and ultimately you're just going to dip in and see what all cards follow the Ancient Magic race, since it has been getting some support over the last few years. So cards here like Ancient Heartfelt Fire came out when the Magic Mana originally did. So for 1 fire, I get to put 3 mana counters back on my ruler. So I'm essentially printing more counters, which then means I'm printing more will. Or I can use it just as a burn spell to deal 400 damage. This will mostly be used as a ramp source to always be able to function with the deck. So we're going to run a solid 4 of that in the deck. Forbidden Winds here is a cancel spell. It has quick cast as long as it's in my graveyard, but due to the Deadeye of Astaroth only affecting light and dark, we will not get the same benefit of giving it Remnant Engrave. Luckily it already has Remnant, so it allows us to play into the wind aspect here. But Ancient Heartfelt Fire will not gain Remnant, as it's a fire card. Playing so many different colors is only viable because of Gil Almahat's ability to produce one of any color per counter I pay. Yeah. Which will definitely be a boon here. Cards like Shield of Nephilim, where target Resonators cannot be destroyed till the end of turn, are always good to add. Probably about 2 to 3 of. Forbidden Words is our cancel spell, so it's good. Cards like Invitation of Disaster here is an ancient magic that can deal 2,000 damage if I awaken it, which has a steep awakening cost, but there are other ways we can get around that in the deck. But as of right now, I think it's best to probably keep at a 1 of. Cards like Heavenly Magic here are good, but they normally require a specific kind of play style. In this case, it requires us to be running Fiefsing the Holy Windstone to properly gain the benefits of. And that's just a much larger commitment to the deck out of the core engine that I do not feel like we have the space for. Okay, so cards here, like the Fury of the Obsidian Dragon, destroy up to X GA Resonators, where X is the number of Dragonoids and non-Dragonoid dragons you control. Well, the Eye of Astaroth has another effect to it, where Resonators I control gain Dragonoid in addition to their race. Thus meaning this will now benefit this card so that any Resonator I'm running will effectively count and be able to destroy more. give me a much more available board wipe. Almahat's Mage Knight here is considered a ancient magic as a resonator, so it's a 5/7 that I can pay for with the counters. Normally wouldn't really want to run it because it's a 2 cost for 500, 700 worth of stats. But because of the amount of counters I will be gaining from the Eye of Astaroth, it's much more viable. Almahat's Black Lightning is cannot be cancelled removal for 2 darkness, which is always good. And the fact now that we'll have extra counters to play it is just a great boon to the deck. Probably gonna run 3 of that to keep it nice and solid for removal. Cards like Strange Miracle, where just are protective cards that once we get later in the game become better protective cards, are always nice to have. And because it is a light card, the Eye of Astaroth will give it Remnant, so I can use 1 counter to pay for it, draw a card, and then cast it from my graveyard once again to then be able to get another card, just letting me go card positive, just burning a few counters. The Rune of Soul, which will let me search my deck for ancient magics, is always good for alternate alternate ways to gain cards to my hand. Ancient Knowledge is a good one to allow me to add cards to my hand without drawing. And Black Moonbeam here is just more removal, and this is removal also that cannot be chased. This is a much older card. It does not even have Quick Cast, but it is considered a chant instant. In the modern game, all spells are not, all chants do not have instant or are not ever referred to as chant instants. They are now chants with Quick Cast instead of chant instant. I know that this is a big change for when it happened with the game. I also have heard rumors that in MTG, the original creator wished he would have done something like that earlier on, of getting rid of having instance and non-instance and just done all non-instance and giving them the ability, and some of them, a version of being able to be played whenever. We definitely are going to probably run 2 of it, just because it is very good targeted removal. Now that we've picked out some ancient magics to start throwing into that, probably going to check out the Dragonoids. By searching for the Dragonoid, if it would ever work for me. Since all Resonators are considered Dragonoids, looking for Dragonoids that otherwise benefit from having other Dragonoids in play, it will just be a boon here. So Flute will be thrown into this deck. She is a Dragonoid that has barrier, so she cannot be targeted by spells or abilities my opponent controls. And she may rest to produce light, so she's a mana dork, but can also transfer doing 1/1 counters, as well as packs a board wipe with Group of Comets. The Group of Comets is not an ancient magic, so I cannot use Almahat's ability to pay for it, but it can still be a good late game option for staying alive. Most of the Dragonoids never really had a cohesive bit to them. Sylvia, the minion of Lapis here, we're just going to showcase her. Her is a Dragonoid, but she doesn't gain benefits from anything ancient magic or any other Dragonoid based. She is a support card specifically for a version of Lapis that uses minions and the limit break mechanic. So she will not be being touched for this build. Some here, like the Bodyguard Squad, whenever this card blocks or recovers it and it gains 300 attack, can be useful, but not in this, not in the way I'm going to be playing this deck. Viola, the treacherous maiden, does have her benefits to her. She doesn't have a horrible stat line. And when she enters target, Resner gains 2/2 and flying and becomes a dragon. So she can do that to herself. So if you needed a quick blocker against a flyer, you can just flash her in because she has quick cast for a wind and 1 void. You target herself, she becomes an 8/8 flyer, and then you can block attacks with her. She is a good defensive card, but I think I can do better. Over the years, Dragonoids have had multiple rulers. Another one here is Kirik as a ruler to showcase. He used a strength counter mechanic, which is why a lot of the Dragonoids that came out around his time actually benefit from the strength counters, instead of the Ancient Magics or other Dragonoids like we are looking for support. The white Dragonoid child there for 2 light, 2 open, it's 7/7. When it enters the field, you get to recover a Resonator if it's a Dragonoid, which all of our Resonators will be Dragonoids. Being able to give it 2/2, that is cool, but ultimately the white Dragonoid child has been power crept quite a bit and is no longer really a viable card to play. The variant of the white Dragonoid child here, when this card enters recover target Resonator, doesn't even really have the same stats, but she herself has the 2/2 buff. Variance was a old mechanic they were trying for one set. They tried it. They didn't really like it in the end, it seems, because they've never brought it back. Viola, the Dragon Priestess here as a Dragonoid, it focuses more on elemental play. Yeah, so she probably will not be beneficial here for me. Same with the Dragon Priestess. Orifica, the Dancer of White Mist, is more panda support. And pandas, as much fun as pandas are, they never really took off as a concept. So I will have to exclude her as well. Well, with the fact that the Deadeye of Astaroth does gain that power with the Dragonoids, everything is a Dragonoid, I do really want to try and get that to work into the deck, at least in some way to gain a benefit from that. Looks like these are really the only ones that I'm going to have the ability to do that with, though, as they did come out around the same time as Gil Almahat. So Riula, the Alabaster Dragon Princess. When this card enters the field, choose one, put target Dragonoid with 2 or less from my grave into the field. The Eye of Astaroth does not care where they are. It just says Dragonoids, Resonators you control gain Dragonoid. So since it doesn't specify, I'm pretty sure that means just the field, but I would have to double check with the team, with my team's judge, to really verify that. One of the perks of employing a judge. But I think we'll build it now, consider with the guess that it will affect the graveyard, and that way we can kind of build around that and actually have something going on there. So force mechanic that a few of these, well, these 3 here are showing off, is when you do that, when you force, you roll a die and then you get that number on the die as the result. Viola, the Obsidian Princess, is probably the only one here really of value, because she actually directly plays off of Gil Almahat with her inheritance effect, which becomes free, which gives him imperishable. So imperishable is that if he would die, he flips back over to his first side, same as any other ruler when it dies. But normally where they go astral and they lose the ability to judgment and they lose most of their effects, he will retain his effects and still be able to judgment once again. And where judgmenting is so on his first side he pays 0 to judgment if he has 7 or more counters on him, which is much easier with the Eye of Astaroth than it used to be. Then you can Judgment into his dragon form, and he's one of the very rare rulers that has a third and final form. Most rulers only have 2 forms. I believe there's only been three formed rulers to date, and he's one of them. So the way they do this practically is that he'll have his first side, his back side, and then his cards would actually fold apart, and you can get to the third side. So it was always very cool to play with. Now, for his third Judgment, you have to have 30. You have to have 20 mana counters on him and remove all the cards you control from the game, which is really a steep cost. But it is valid to do because all chance you have, so all of your spells gain Ancient Magic, and then you just get to play them all without paying their cost. And if any of them are light or dark cards, they'll gain Quick Cast and Remnant, so you can play them whenever you want and from your grave. So if you can get to his final form, it really will be valuable to flip and then just unload every chant in your hand. So we definitely will play around with that idea. That looks like all the Dragonoids I want to run. Since we're running Darkness, we have to include at least one card here. We're going to add the Dark Alice, the Rabbit Princess here. Yes, she is based off of Alice in Wonderland. There is a very large amount of Alice cards in this game. You could build a whole deck just off of Alice cards. There's multiple Dark Alice rulers, but this one here is one of the best ones. So cards in my graveyard cannot be targeted by spells or abilities my opponent controls or removed from the game, which, since all of them will be given Remnant so I can cast them again, I do want to protect them. So Dark Alice will definitely go through and do that for me. Yeah. And then, of course, she has her other stipulation where stones can start tapping for any color if I have a Chant, a Magic Stone, or a Resonator all in my grave. And in addition, I'm probably not going to get that off. But the other reason this card's so good is when it enters, I draw a card, then I may discard another card or banish an entity I control to draw and do it again. This card, I think the spike it ever hit for its cost was $60 a copy. It's been reprinted 4 times now, and these basic copies can go for $5-10 normally. Yeah, so it's not the most budget friendly, but it is still a very good card to have in the deck. Next we're going to check. Gonna look for any and all Ancient Magic, any cards that have Ancient Magic in their text, as then they also might be good to incorporate in. So like Luna, the Magician of Moonstar here, she's a 3 cost that then has her own mana ability to remove mana counters from her for water to play for Ancient Magic cards. I'm not really running a lot of water Ancient Magics. Yeah, we got a few here, but I don't know if she's really worth the play slot. Ancient Barrier is definitely an idea, because players pay 2 more for non-Ancient Magic chants. And once we get to Final Form, all of our chants become Ancient Magic. But the thing is, that also might slow down just playing the game with other cards in the meantime. It's definitely worth a thought. The Ancient Magic Stone here is Gil-Almahat's main Magic Stone. So it's a pain stone. When it hits the field, if I don't control Gil-Almahat or any of his forms, I take 300 life damage. If I want it to come in unrested, otherwise it comes in rested. It's counted as a light and a dark stone, which would triggers Gil-Almahat's resonance effect at the bottom when it enters. We're just putting a mana counter onto him, so he gets an extra mana counter just for this card hitting the field, which is always nice to see. Yeah, and we will be running 4 of those. I do have a Quest Clear variant of the Ancient Magic Stone, which specific variants of cards the company produced. That was like a mail-in thing. You filled out an online form, and then in doing so, they would send you the copy of the card with the Ancient Magic stamp on it. And they only did this for a few cards and a few sets, and in doing so, these do actually hold greater value than their non-Quest Clear counterparts. So, Quest Clear cards have always been pretty good to own and collect. I have about 2 pages here in my binder for them, including one ruler, which is one of my favorite rulers. And one of the other Quest Clears I have is my favorite Magic Stone artwork, which is like a frozen teardrop. I do enjoy. Another fun fact while we're on like the mail-in things. Gil-Mahat was a ruler they did mail-in for at one point. And by doing that, you got rewards for like scanning in codes. And then you got to use those codes, and at the end of the season, they would send out cards to people. A lot of times, those promotional cards didn't really have value to them. But the Gil-Mahat in particular are numbered. So 0 through 500, they made 500 copies of them. And I happen to have 2 of them. I have 205 and 27. So on one side he has his ruler side, and then he has the J ruler side, the dragon. And since these are Ubers, they're monochromatic. So it's just black and white on this side. On the dragon side, there's yellow on his mouth and then some purple on him. And then, oh, this hasn't been opened in a few years. He gets to go into his 3rd and final form, which is just folds apart and has all that nice color on him. So, I'll probably be using number 27 if I actually play this deck at an event, along with the Quest Clear Stone, just to flex on people, as I do love to do that. As the leader of a pro team, collecting is a very big thing of what I like to do. So if I show up with a really nice Uber of the ruler, with a misprint of the sub-ruler Quest Clear on the stone, that's just some fun perks to show off to people. Symphony of Fire and Water could be a decent addition to this deck. So if I control Fire, J/Resonator, and a Water, J/Resonator, I get both effects. Otherwise, I only get one. It does allow the ability to give one of my chance in my graveyard quick cast. Remnant. It gives me the ability to play one of them with Remnant. But the sub-ruler already does that, so I don't really see the value in that mode. Its first mode, it produces 1 void, so 1 colorless will to just sit there, which that's always cool to go +1. But I have so many other options to really play that with. And the fact that its second mode's obsolete. In almost every other Ancient Magic build I've ever done, I've included it. But for this one, I just don't feel like it's valid. Like it does enough. This deck actually probably could run Twin-Headed Dragon, unlike a lot. So it's a 1 water, 1 fire, 2 void, 1,000 dragon with flying. You may spend will to play this card's awakening cost. So the awakenings are additional costs when you're playing a resonator or a chant that then lets other things happen. This one just so happens to, it either deals 1,000 to a resonator so it could be used to burn things or use the water, and then I can rest up to 2 Resonators. They don't recover during their next recovery phase. It could be a nice little boss monster to play with that gets to do some fun things. Why not run like 1 or 2 of it? Just to give you something big to run. 3 Veils, 3 is. Yeah, because Ryula does buff other Dragonoids with 2/2. That would let all our other Resonators gain a little bit of a buff. We really got to figure out what the end win con here should be. So right now the deck has some synergy to it. Really looking for that base core and more refined abilities. I think this seems to be the perfect deck though to run Hydria, as there isn't much draw in the deck besides Dark Alice. So if we're really not playing around with a lot of the draw to it, and we have alternate ways to add cards to hand, like the Rune of Soul and the Ancient Knowledge, then we could be able to get away safely with Hydria, which would lock our opponent out of drawing more than just during their base draw phase, slowing them down and letting us really build up some steam there, which means we'd probably want to buff Ancient Knowledge to 3 of. Fury probably wants 2 of. Invitation of Disaster. 2. So it means we're probably looking for doing a water light build. The Mage Knight really has no effects, so we're going to scrap it. We're looking for water, 2 drops, 1 or 2. So we want to speed up the deck and make it go a little bit better here. Vakis would be a good addition to this deck. Granted, I think Vakis is a good addition to any deck that could run him in colors, especially in this current format. But I just don't really see his place right now financially, because this card's quite expensive. Spirit or Mirage Rune, we aren't really yet playing Resonators without paying their whole cost. So rolling it into the deck, probably pretty safe. I mean, yeah, we have 1 card that can do Resurrection, but ultimately we're only messing around with 1 card then. The whole rest of the deck is safe. With Guilliman's colors, we can definitely run Mirror, since it's the only negative to it if we were running a Wind Ruler, which we are not. Cheshire Cats are always safe bets. But it is a draw based, and otherwise it would just hinder us a little bit. Muse Staring At essentially does the same thing Cursed the Mirage Spirit does. So if cards are played without paying their original cost, they're removed, except this one cannot be chased to. And since we are playing everything at full cost without reducing costs, I think it's probably a good addition, and it already comes with Quick Cast and Remnant. Since it's in colors and everything's blue and black anyways, I'd be tempted to run Mother and Father for the Cthulhu loop, But we don't really have enough other Cthulhus, I feel like, to make it viable. There might be a world where you can hybrid the two decks, but I think it's safest to not do that and just focus on the magic theme already of the deck. Aspiring Diva here. So when I play her, she's going to let us look at the top 3 cards of the deck, reveal a chant, which is the broad umbrella for the entire deck, and then put it into our hand. The rest go on the bottom in any order. It's another way to get around the Hydria situation, and whenever Diva needs to be used up, we can just banish her and get the will back we used to then play other chants that use water. So, like Rune of Soul, if we played Aspiring Diva, then got her effect off, pulled out a Rune of Soul, then removed her, then she pays for the water cost of Rune of Soul, and then Gil Almaha can pay for the fire cost, thus making it pretty much free. Yeah, and then we get to go into immediately finding another thing. Like, we could immediately go and then pick out Viola's Machinations from the deck, and then just use that twice, because it just refunds itself, to discard 2 cards from my opponent's hand. And yeah, that goes a little deep into card usage, but ultimately the hand goes net neutral through all that. Probably want to run 4 Divas. Okay. Sonic Siren. Sorry about this. So, quick cast, remove a Magic Stone I control if the combined number of instances of Melody that J Rulers I control have is 4 or more. Put the top 4 cards of my opponent's deck in their graveyard. So, it's one of the very few mill cards we have in the game. Definitely will not be running it in this deck because we don't have Melody as a theme for Almahat. That's normally to a specific ruler. Although what's cool about Sonic Siren, it is one of the only other cards I have found an error copy of. So maybe one day I'll find a way to work the Deadeye of Astaroth and Siren Song into a deck to run my multiple error cards. Is there anything else I'm thinking about adding to the deck before I start just cutting it? Probably cut that. Got real, Spirit of Mirage can probably sit at 3. Hydra is probably fine at 1 or 2. Black Moonbeam searchable off Rune of Soul and off of Aspiring Diva pretty much. So it's probably safe sitting at 1. New Staring At's probably safe at 2. Twin-Headed Dragon's just a fun finisher. I might cut it if we need the room. Curse Mirror is one of the best control cards in the format, especially since I can play it with only 1 white will to really disrupt early play from my opponent. Forbidden Words can probably sit at 2 as it is a remnant, so I can play it from my hand and then also be able to play it from the grave. But the problem with this is it's a cancel spell that doesn't have quick cast, so it operates only at normal speed when it's in my hand, so I'd have to really get rid of it if I wanted to better utilize it. Let's see what other blue cancel spells we can really see that would be better for this build. Enchanting Sorte would be fun, except that requires us to be running Niklaus as the ruler. There really aren't many. Keys' Call could be good for this, as it replaces itself, it has quick cast, and it lets us cancel an automatic ability. Automatic abilities are like Enters here, like on Dark Alice, to where it automatically triggers when the card hits the field or another condition is met. Unlike an activate ability, like Hydria's God's Art here, which requires you to pay a cost to trigger the effect instead of it just automatically going off. Let's see. We have also a Rod Knight to the Knight Trion Blade. That does the same use as Keys' Call, but does not replace itself with a draw, but it does have an awakening to where it can destroy something, but that would be playing 4 to be able to use that effect. Where we can also run like Millennial Bond that does a full cancel, but costs 1 more will to really use. It does have its Treasury Atom effect, which we really wouldn't ever find the ability to use or utilize properly. But Millennial Bond can be paid for with Aspiring Diva to make it only a 1 green cost. We'd have to incorporate another Magic Stone that can really dip into green will to be able to properly utilize that. So it's definitely an option. Sparklefish is a fun option, except it's a random based card. So we'd have to roll a dice every time we try and use it. And sometimes we could hit the wrong effect. So our options do get a little limited there. The Forgotten Amphitheater. Now we would gain its solo mode effect, because we only have 1 ruler and we have 1 sub ruler, but solo mode only counts for the 1 ruler, and he has darkness, so he does fulfill the water or darkness category. But this really doesn't look like it would benefit us. So looks like if we want to add a cancel spell to the deck, it's gonna be Keys' Call, which will probably be a 3 of. And search, let's see if there's any light or dark cancels that are available. Okay, so we could do Cancel Grove of the Dark Forest, where since it's 1 darkness, 1 green, we get access to its solo mode, which we have with Almahat, and then it does have the ability to cancel a Resonator spell unless its controller pays 2 void extra. Choose this option only if you did not choose the 3rd option, which is to put the top card of your Magic Stone deck into the field rested and heal all Astral Rulers. Since Guilliman's really powerful when he starts going into his stronger forms, being able to protect him or revive him is always a strong option. And we would have then Riula who can heal him from being astral, and this, giving us more options here. It also has 1/1 counter support, which goes along with Flute, as her comet, the group of comets spell will destroy all Resonators with no 1/1 counters on them. Being able to add more 1/1 counters to our Resonators will be extremely valuable. We'll destroy all water and all Resonators flying. If we just stay away from having too many water on the field or too many flyers, or our opponent's getting out of hand, we can use that. It's just extra little toolbox. So probably run 3 of those, actually. Because toolbox is always a good thing to have. Shield of Nephilim is an option, but I think that's going to get replaced by Strange Miracle, since Strange Miracle replaces itself with a draw and does almost the same thing. Except Strange Miracle requires Seal 7, which means I have to have 7 or more Magic Stones to really activate that effect. So it's not as instant, but we're also a little thick on the deck right now. Cursed Mirror is definitely needed. Thank you for the boop. I just saw that. Let's... Hyde, the shooting star of light. I've definitely seen a few people incorporate into their decks to great avail, utilizing her effect to just be a bank for all your leftover or will at the end of turn, or using all that light to reveal her from your hand to put seal counters on everything, and then later on be able to play her to great effect. Since she gets to recover all of your entities that have the seal counter on them, and rest everything your opponent controls. So if your opponent's starting to build up a board every turn, you can have at least some way to get out of it. And since she then gains them all and gets to be able to use them, it can be fun. And she also does some control aspect with being able to counter her activate abilities. Probably a fun 2 of. Number 13, Anti-Magic's always been a fun one. So if you have Seal 4, so if you have 4 stones, it only costs 1 Wind Will, and you just get to cancel a spell. Would that actually really stand up in this deck? We would have to incorporate Wind in some way, which if we could find the right Triome, it wouldn't be a negative thing. And once we get to 7, to Seal 7, it's just a free cancel spell. Going too far back into this game's history of cards won't show us too many things, but yeah. Cancel spells have definitely come a long way. And the removals. We're at 60 cards. And now we have our big block of ice. Now we just get to start cutting it apart. Side deck, move Hyde to the side deck. Anything here that's too optional. Not everyone runs heavy resonator decks, so we're going to move that away. This is gas to keep us going in the game. This is more gas. This is good disruption. Good search. Good removal. This is just a good toolbox to keep in. Good control. This refreshes itself and just lets you keep going. Essentially, this would be if I draw it, I can just cast it immediately for 1 counter off the ruler. Draw another card, goes into grave, and is casted out of grave. It's a good sink for the counters and just gets me more card draw. Where that does affect Hydria in the deck. So maybe move Hydria to the sideboard. As if I'm playing against someone that is a very draw heavy deck, I can always just sideboard it in and then probably take out the Strange Miracles since they are a big draw engine, and just swap those 2 since I know the deck can probably work without it. Viola is good at protecting the ruler, but we also have, 5 ways to heal him if he is killed. Her secondary effect isn't really all that good. And her stat line's a little low because of the age of the card. Since Return of the Dragon Emperor, the set most of these come from, that would have came out 7 years ago. So it's a bit of an old card, subject to a lot of power creep. Invitation Disaster is always a good alternate win con, so I think it's worth keeping in the deck. It's just 3-drop, deal 8 to something, or if we get super late game, 10-drop, deal 20. And if we're into 3rd form, we can choose to just pay the extra to really go for it. because it's a you may pay them without paying their cost. You don't have to. You can still pay the cost. Which that does become an contention when other people are running cards that specifically work with costs. So like Mew staring at, if it's paid without paying its full cost, it gets removed from the game and doesn't get to resolve. So that's definitely something to look around and play around. Just get rid of the dragon. Black Moonbeam's a good card to keep in back pocket, but probably don't need it in the main deck. Having control spells is always fun. Are you going to keep 2 of those in the main deck? Invitation is asked, since it's searchable by Rune of Soul, I can take it down to only a 1 of. Ancient Knowledge is expensive, so we're just going to move it down to a 1 of. But that can be searched out. Rune of Soul's really good, but if I bump Strange Miracle up, probably works better. Keep it the same. 45 is fine to run as a deck. For Magic Stones, the Magic Stone of Rain will probably be a boon for this deck. So the Magic Stone of Rain, specifically, why was it? Because I have that restricted. The Magic Stone of Rain, says that you can tap it to produce 1 water. If you spend that water on a chant, it cannot be canceled. It just has to be on a water chant. So that goes for like our Ancient Knowledge or Cursed Mirror. So it's a little niche in what I would be using it for, but it means that that spell always gets to resolve. And the Runes of Soul, so I guess I could bump it to 3. It's a little thick of a deck at that point, so probably cut this, probably cut the number 13s actually, to get us down to 43. Run 2 Magic Stones of Rain. And then we definitely want to run a Triome. Okay. Triome is just a generic term in the community for these stones that count as 3 different stones. The Crown Stone of Moonglow is probably worth actually running in this deck. As it does have a Magic Stone type, so it's easy to get around some of the cards that destroy cards without a Magic Stone type. Yep. And yeah, you can only play mono type Resonator spells with its will of any attribute, but if they're 2 or more, they cannot be targeted and gain barrier, which would almost guarantee us, like cards like Ryula actually land onto the field and actually get to resolve, which can sometimes be a point of contention. Produces blue, produces light and darkness, which is all the colors we need. We'll be paying a little bit of life, but that'll work. And then gotta get the deck a name. Super original with my naming schemes for a lot of these decks is I'll just give them what they are and then when it was made. As I go through making so many decks that try and go with a unique name for every single one of them, I will just forget what they are, which is never fun for anyone. Now I have, with this deck stream been worked on today and the one I worked on yesterday, definitely will be showcasing some of these against some of my players from the tournaments that we do, since see if any of them are available tomorrow and go a round or two against them on Untap, where you can play the game for free digitally. Some of these starting hands don't look that bad. Starting with Machinations, 2 Aspiring Divas. This hand definitely could do some damage. So if I did Machinations twice, then played Aspiring Diva, still on same turn 1, get to look at 3, we'd get a Cursed Mirror to hand. Dark Allison Flute would go to the bottom of the deck. And since neither player is 2 stones at that point, we would have the ability to play Cursed Mirror just by exiling the other Aspiring Diva to cancel and gain tempo on turn 1. On turn 2, we would draw the Council, which is just another lockdown control card. So we'd be packing Council and Lightning, still have Diva on fields, Ryula in hand, ready to go. Definitely could put a stop to some early game plays. Building into another Machination, so I'd be discarded 4 cards, probably could have canceled 1. Our opponent would have 1 to 2 cards in hand, if that. Not a bad way to play. Yeah, so with the Triome here, it does count as a Water Magic Stone, so it would not trigger Almahat's ability to gain more counters off of light or dark stones, but with Ancient Heartfelt Fire giving us 3 for the 1 we paid, so we're plussing 2 on that, and at end of every turn, even our opponents, the Dead Eye of Astaroth, will start just giving us counters. I don't believe that negative of not having the stones giving us more will really become a big thing. Plus, we can always use the Dead Eye of Astaroth to tap, draw a card, and then put a card we don't want back in the bottom of the deck. So cards like Invitation Disaster, that early game might be a hindrance to have in the hand. We just tap the eye, send it away, and get a new one. And then later on in the game, we can use Rune of Soul to search it out whenever we need. So having extra win cons like that won't really bog down the hand. If we end up playing the Hydra and going into a game 2 and need to play it, the Dead Eye of Astaroth does not become a hindrance with its draw ability locked out on our main turn, because we can always just use it during our opponent's turn to tap and draw, because Hydra restricts drawing more than 1 card per turn. So we get to draw on our turn and our opponent's turn, still giving us an advantage in that way. Ultimately, I think this is a fun deck, and will be definitely used and showcased. I think I might run this during our winter tournament we have coming up. I still have to get with my judge and plan it. It looks right now like the next tournament we will be doing will be in January, and that's where that elf token, the elf tokens we are currently producing, will be being given away. If you look to the left of the screen, that that art right there is the artwork we will be using for the tokens. She has been modeled off of Faithsing here, one of the more predominant elf characters from the game. More specifically, I did ask that it was modeled off of this, the Faithsing, the Fate Spinning Winds, which, if you noticed earlier, is one of the cards I have a quest clear copy of, and is one of my favorite cards from that set, because I am a big fan of the inheritance mechanic, which is why I have a ruler that specializes in that mechanic as one of my quest clears. And here is this one as well. So we have that going for us. Because for our fall tournament, we showcased the Dracula vampires there for the tokens being given away for that tournament. And our summer tournament was the Priscia ones there, who is one of the other predominant characters from the game. We've definitely gone out of our way to really work on and maintain different tokens and make sure things are always fun for the community. Yeah. So I'll also at some point be trying to find someone to do a how to play tutorial on how to play the game, as teaching someone would be fun. A few members of the community have reached out and are wanting to do a podcast segment going over the recent ban list and their thoughts about it, so I'll probably be reaching out to showcase with them about that. But since the deck is finished and we're getting ready to do everything else, I think I'll call it for today, and tomorrow try and have someone else to showcase other decks from their end and play against them going on. So thank you everyone for showing up today, and have a good day.